Sports Minutes with Ziaul Raushan.
Marma with the clearance, still in, opportunity, clearance, no! Singapore score with just a minute to go in the first half. It is Song Hui-young, long ranger. Mithul Marma with the save, but Ikhsan Fandi has it and scores! Singapore have their second.
Opportunity for Bangladesh. Does the ball roll in? It does! Bangladesh come back! Rakib Hussain! A story of almost once again. The AFC Championship qualifier Group C encounter between Singapore and Bangladesh ends in the final full-time scoreline of 2-1.
Well, I hope you enjoyed that rather abstract commentary that I stumbled upon recapping the bruising battle in Bangladesh, after which the deed was done in Dhaka as Singapore clinched an all-important 2-1 win away from home to get their 2027 Asian Cup qualifying campaign up and running. This is Sports Minutes with Ziaul Raushan as we recap the Lions' victory. And later on the show, we'll hear from Hariss Harun, who marked the occasion by matching Daniel Bennett's caps record, Hami Syahin, who put in a Lions shift in the heart of midfield, and the man of the hour, Ikhsan Fandi, who now has 21 goals in 40 national team appearances, which, if Wikipedia is to be believed, takes him above a certain V. Sundramurthy in the all-time goal scorers list for Singapore. But first, in the Sports Minutes studio with me is none other than Deepanraj Ganesan. Deepan, welcome to the show. Your initial thoughts on the game?
Hi, Raushan. I'm very happy. It was always going to be a tough away game. I had some doubts of about whether the Lions would come through with the 3 points, because that's what matters in qualification groups, getting as many points as possible at home and trying to eke out certain points away from home. So perfect 3 points from a Bangladesh game in a hostile environment, and some would say hostile players.
Yeah, absolutely. Hostile is a very kind word in terms of what was dished out on and off the pitch. More to come from Deepan, but first let's hear from Captain Hariss Harun on the bruising battle and also his personal milestone of achieving 142 caps, which according to FAS's records means he's now joint top alongside Daniel Bennett for all-time appearances for the national team.
The game itself was very scrappy. There were lots of tough moments in the game, but I think the boys did really well to hold on. To score the 2 goals, to give us a bit of a cushion was really helpful. But we know 2-0 was it's a very dangerous result in football, and when they came back to 2-1, they had a lot of momentum on their side. But I think we did very well to hang on for the 3 points, and that's all that matters. I'm really honoured and proud to have reached the milestone. I think it's really huge for me personally, for me and my family. But I hope to continue helping the team for as long as I can.
Now, Deepan, we heard from Hariss Harun there. Before we talk about that milestone, let's dive a little deeper into the Lions showing. Cohesive and coherent are 2 words that spring to mind. Would you agree?
I think for large parts, yes. Especially that first half, I thought the Lions, after a nervy opening, I think they grew into the game. Despite, like I mentioned, hostile players, a lot of overzealous challenges coming in from the Bangladeshi players. And the Lions stood tall, even though they were bloodied and bruised. We saw Jordan Imaviwe take a blow to the face. And it was a hostile environment which they needed to get used to. So, people will look at Bangladesh and their FIFA rankings and say, hey, this is a game that the Lions should be winning. So while I agree, I think a lot has changed in Bangladeshi football because of who they've been able to naturalize. You saw that in that particular game, they had Hamza Chowdhury next to Shamit Shome, who is a newly naturalized player. So it's not an easy opponent by any stretch of the imagination, but you saw Singapore players really rise to the task, especially in the first half. So people need to realize that, in tough away environments, it's not a given to get all 3 points. And at the end of the day, the result speaks for itself. It's a 2-1. I checked out some of the stats from the game. I think even in terms of expected goals, Singapore won that game. I think it was 2.14 to somewhere around 1 for Bangladesh. And in terms of shots, the scoreline should have been more. Ikhsan had a few chances in the first half. He should have put away. Song had a very good chance as well to open the scoring even before he did later on. So all in all, I thought it was a positive performance. Of course, with every performance, there's bones to pick, things to improve on. And I like the narrative because even when we won against Maldives 3-1, Ugura at his post-match, Safwan in the post-match talked about the need for improvement. And the same things is coming out of this game where Ikhsan is talking about how he could have done better. Ogura talking about, yes, he was proud of his players, but there can be more. So these are the things you want to see where, yes, a victory is there, 3 points on board, but we can still get better. That's the narrative.
Yeah, I tell you what goes way beyond 3 points is the mindset, and that's the mindset you speak of. One player whose mindset will never be questioned on this show or in Singapore football in general is Hariss Harun, now on to 142 caps as per FAS's records. Not long ago, after the Mitsubishi Electric Cup, some were saying, Hariss, time to pass on the mantle, time to pass on the captain's armband. Here we are, he's now joint top. And based on recent form, he's going to be in a league of his own very, very soon.
Oh, for sure. I think he's still one of those reliable players that you've got to have in the starting lineup. Brings a lot of calm, brings a lot of discipline to the team. And I think with Hariss, what you also get is a lot of experience, which is something that cannot be bought at this level. And I think also Hariss is able to play different roles. I mean, not just in the middle of the park, but when the need is there, he can play in the centre-back position as well, which I think he's very comfortable with. So I think at the end of the day, you've got to realise that, yes, players come through bad patches of form and whatnot. And we have to agree, I think Hariss was not at his best, even by his own admission in that previous tournament. But right now, I think we're seeing the best version of Hariss. Of course, not quite fast as he once was, but I think he serves a very good role with this national team. And we've got to support that. And I'm so proud to see that he's now matched that record. I'm sure the next time the national team plays, he's going to surpass that.
Yeah, I for one can't wait to see that happen. I'm going to give you extra points for mentioning XG to start with, but also when talking about Hariss, not mentioning Rolls-Royce or vintage are also well done. Deepan. Another standout player from the match for me personally, it was Hami Syahin, who himself seems to have grown leaps and bounds this season alone. And I spoke to him post-match about holding his own against the likes of Hamza Chowdhury and Shamit Shomeh. Here's what he had to say before waiting for takeoff on a flight back home.
Playing with the likes of Hamza Chowdhury is an honor and it's a privilege, to be sharing the same pitch with him. But at the end of the day, it's about representing your country, playing to the best of your ability and giving your all for the country. And I hope I did that, and I'm very sure that the boys put in their best effort, and alhamdulillah we managed to get the result.
I'm pretty sure Hami Syahin switched his phone to aeroplane mode after sending me that recording. Hami, thank you so much for that. Deepan, coming to you, we talked about Hariss doing well in the midfield yesterday. How impressed were you by Hami Syahin?
Oh, very, very impressed. I think I've said before on this show how much I like him as a player. I think yesterday he showed in terms of how calm, composed he was on the ball, off the ball, the tenacity that he brought to the game as well. Even sent Hamza for a hot dog or two in the game. So it's a game that he will be proud of. I think Ogura will be very happy with his display as well. And I think Hami brings a very unique skill set to this national team where you have a lot of players who perhaps are not quite as comfortable in retaining possession. But not only is Hami able to do that, he's also able to move along with the national team in terms of how they progress the ball. So very happy to see, and I think he should be a mainstay in this team. And again, because of how the Sailors have played and how Rankovic has almost given him a new role with the Sailors sometimes in that right wing back, drifting into midfield kind of position. That's something for Ogura and his coaching staff to look at as well.
No, you're absolutely right. The term Harriers comes to mind when you talk about Shah and Hariss Stewart in midfield, and then you got Hami, who is able to send Hamza Chowdhury for hot dogs. I give you extra points for that as well. Who else stood out for you apart from Hami, who we've discussed?
Yeah, not saying this just because my preview for the game centered around him, but if there was any indication needed as to whether he should get an offer or not, I think Safwan showed it in this game that he still has it. Very good at the back. Again, just like Hariss, he brings a lot of experience. Just the simple things he does in terms of shepherding the ball out of play when under pressure, or even in terms of bringing the ball out from defense. Sometimes even cajoling his teammates to go in harder, close down spaces. You can see it all from him. So in terms of, he might be 34 now, I think. But wow, look at what he's able to do physically, completing matches. He was good again in this game, so kudos to him. And I thought he was one of the standout players as well.
I'll let you use the word Rolls Royce if you want.
Yeah, Rolls Royce of a performance.
All right, Deepan, it's easy to discuss the good after an important win. You mentioned bones to pick. We're going to try and do that now because on Sports Minutes, we try and do that. One difficult question and one that's filled the Twitterverse, I'm going to call it, is question marks about Ogura's in-game management. I think this comes on the back of substitutions, be it timing or the personnel that he brought on. Where do you stand on this?
Yeah, so I first of all agree that the substitutions could have been better. I did also observe that during the game there was a need for fresh legs. So in terms of making those substitutions at that timing, I'm okay with it. I think it was needed. But it was just the personnel that I think confused some people, especially in terms of changing out defenders during a game. I'm not quite a fan of that. But look, I think with Ogura, you have to realize that in his time in charge, there have not been a plethora of friendlies to sort of test his players, because at different points, at different junctures, not everybody has been available. You look at the ASEAN Championship, he worked with a select group of players because some were not available. So he's not had that liberty to sort of test out partnerships, to test out certain players in certain environments. So sometimes it's almost like having to throw them into the deep end, which is what he's done with Amir Shafiz in these two games. And my gripe with people who comment sometimes is you don't watch the Singapore Premier League, and maybe you only watch national team games, and then you question why certain players are given some time and all. But Ogura is watching every single SPL game, so he knows what he can expect from each player in each situation. So some were complaining about Amir Shafiz being thrown on towards the end, but I think Amir has shown in the SPL with the Young Lions that he chases lost causes. He's someone who can really make the runs for you, and I think that's what Ogura wanted. So of course there's a lot to improve in terms of the substitutions and in how the players coming on can make an impact or not. And I think that's something that will be rectified in time to come as he spends more time with the players. But I think one thing that we have got to also note is a lot of these players that are coming on, the onus is also on them to get settled in quickly, to ensure that there's no drop in quality, drop in levels. Because Raushan, I think it has to be said now that for 2 games in a row, the second half performance does not match the first half performance. It's always been a drop. This could be down to multiple factors. Fitness could be down to the substitute players not being ready enough. Could there be something done to improve their readiness for the game? So all these things are things to improve on. But I say this again, at the end of the day, the result is a positive. A 2-1 result away from home, 3 points. Now we build on it.
No, absolutely. I like the points you make about not having friendlies and the liberty for Ogura to stress test these players. And just one more point, perhaps causing the second half drop-offs could be what Peter Diru alluded to in terms of ball in play in the Singapore Premier League. Anyway, doubts may be surrounding Ogura and some of his decisions. No doubt, though, that Ikhsan Fandi is back on form. 3 goals in 2 games. Here's what he had to say about his performance, as well as surpassing Sundram's goal record and what it means for his confidence.
Yeah, I thought the most important thing was getting the 3 points to bring it back to Singapore. Personally, my performance, I don't think it's one of my best games, but I'm happy I could contribute with a goal, and it turns out that the goal was going to be very important. Yeah, before the game, I said already to myself, I'm going to reach Sundram's level, and of course, up next is Duric, so I hope I can surpass him as well in the coming games. Yeah, this was the spark I needed. This was the break I needed. I'm very happy to have scored 3 goals in 2 games. I'll definitely try to carry this confidence over to my new team, Ratchaburi, and hopefully I have a good season, consistent season, and injury-free season, inshallah.
Upbeat, understandably, but unapologetically honest as well. Deepan, you think he's being hypercritical or fair?
No, I think he's being fair. I think he would be the first person to admit that he should have got more than 1 goal in that game. You know, I think for Ikhsan, these 2 games were so important in terms of getting that confidence back. I think for very long, not just me as a football journalist here, but just Singaporeans, football fans, they've been wanting to see more of Ikhsan. But, you know, in terms of game time, injuries and whatnot, it hasn't been quite the season for him. So to return to the national fold, to get 3 goals in these 2 games, I think fantastic for him. And he like Singapore, has to build on this now. He talked about, you know, going to Ratchaburi for the coming season. He needs to hit the ground running. We would all love to see a fit and firing Ikhsan, because this is not yet a fit and firing Ikhsan, and he's scoring the important goals that we need. So imagine when he's in peak form, when he's feeling 100% in terms of physical conditioning. he's going to be a threat for us. And we've been missing that, Raushan. I think you think back to that Hong Kong game where we should have gotten all 3 points, but we're just missing that killer instinct up front. You can talk about how he wasn't quite at 100% in some of the Singapore Cup games that we saw. But one thing you can never take away from players like Ikhsan is that smell for the goal. They know where to be. They know where the ball will drop. And that's how he scored, no? Because he was at the right place at the right time when Hami's shot was parried away by the goalkeeper. And even the other chances that dropped to him in that game, it was a result of him being in the correct place. That cannot be taught. I mean, at the end of the day, you need to be in the right places to get the right goals, and that's something he has. So I just hope that he gets that conditioning that he really needs in the new season. Go and have a good rest. And I can't wait to see him next season.
Yeah, apparently he's already on a beach in Dubai trying to recuperate for what lies ahead. You talk about goals being the currency for strikers. Confidence is such an important currency as well. And to your point, I hope Ikhsan finds it at club level as well. A lot has been made going into this game about that Song Kyoga axis. I think a lot of people were excited to see that. We saw glimpses of it. But I want to ask you this. How important is a Song Ikhsan axis? Because both of them were key in both the matches.
Yeah, I think more than the partnership, which is of course good, is I think Song brings an important skill set to this team, which is that late runs into the box. Because a lot of times when the national team have played, it's almost like only the number 9 or whoever plays up front that is in and around the box. We need a lot of these late runners into the box, and that's Song's strength. He's able to get the goals from midfield, so he's almost like the perfect player to play in the number 10 position or the position behind the striker. And because he and Ikhsan have a good relationship off the field, I think it translates on the field as well. And I think that's very important to have. And again, like Ikhsan, I think Song was a big miss in our previous games, and he's bringing that now. So I think the national team has a few players now who are locked in the starting 11. It's about finding the remaining pieces. I think Ilhan, who didn't have much game time in these 2 games, he is someone as well that I'm looking out for in future games. I hope he hits the ground running on loan at Buriram and he's able to come into the fold as well. I think Hariss Stewart has really been has 2 good performances as well. So a lot of good things to sort of like be happy about, be positive about. But there are also things to fix, like we mentioned in this team.
Yeah, absolutely. Give a shout out to Raihan Stewart as well, who travelled all the way from Lithuania. I wanted him to get on the pitch. He came onto the pitch and gave a good account of himself as well. We've talked about Ikhsan Fandi and the joy it brings us as football observers in terms of him being back amongst the goal as well as back with a smile. Here's what his peers had to say in terms of Ikhsan's return to form.
I think Ikhsan showed his quality during this window. We really missed his goals in the past year. He's proven again, when he's fit, he gives us goals. So I really hope that he can stay fit and get sharper as well with more games with his new club, and that will be great for the national team.
Yeah, definitely. We are all happy for Ikhsan. In football, there's always ups and downs, and I'm sure ending this season on a high, especially with these 2 goals, it will only push him and motivate him to work even harder for the next season. And I'm sure he will get back to his hot scoring form. And I think we all always want the best for him, and we wish him all the best.
Nothing quite like a post-victory podcast, Deepan, because all smiles, everybody's happy, the camp is happy. Firstly, a huge shout out to Hariss Harun, Hami Syahin, as well as Ikhsan Fandi, who, when I reached out to them personally, sent through those audio notes just to let you listeners have an inside line into all that went through those 2 important victories for the Lions. Deepan, looking ahead now, the next assignment is a double-header against India. How do we build on this result to ensure this feel-good factor, these 2 victories, isn't just a flash in the pan?
Yeah, next 2 competitive fixtures will be in October, that back-to-back games against India, starting with the home fixture. But before that, of course, in September, there's still an international window, which I believe will be filled with 2 friendlies at the very least. I think there's been an invitation from the Philippines for an invitational tournament. I'm not sure yet if Singapore will be there or they might play 2 friendlies in some other situation. But I think those 2 friendlies are important. I mean, just because of what I said earlier in terms of having the time for this team to really play enough games together with a settled first 11 to know, okay, this is how we want to play. Because we talk a lot about the positivity of these 2 results, but we are still crying out for more of a solid identity under Sutomo Ogura. And I think we need that. We need these 2 games. So these two games will be crucial for the national team to get the momentum going. And I think these two games in this window have already served the purpose. Now is about finding that rhythm and to continue that. And then hopefully from the next window, we then go to October with momentum, with maybe 4 wins in a row. And then I think it will build confidence, not just for the players, but for the fans as well. Okay, you know what? 2 back-to-back fixtures against India. Let's get maximum points. Let's start seeing clarity in the road to Riyadh.
Yeah, absolutely. I think a word has already been used on this podcast. Inshallah, maybe that will come true. Deepanraj Ganesan, I can't wait to pick your brain about the upcoming Singapore Premier League season very, very soon. But in the meantime, I'm going to let you go. Thank you so much for your insights today.
Thank you, Raushan.
Sports Minutes on Money FM 89.3.